What if everything that happened to you between January and right now wasn't a result, but it was a report? What if the first half of the year were simply data for a final push? Listen, my friends, here's what so many of us do. We finish the first half of the year and we either beat ourselves up for what didn't happen or we celebrate what did, and then we just keep going. Same pace, same gear, same approach, and that's why the second half looks like the first. But what if it was different this time? Welcome to MiNDSHiFT Monday, where we don't just talk motivation, we train perspective. I'm your man, Robert Kennedy III, RK3. That's me, and today is a special one. Today's our season 2 finale. And I didn't want to close this season with a hype speech. I wanted to close it with something that actually changes how you move for the next 6 months. So if you've been watching the season, if you've been in the expansion conversations, the resilience conversations, the voice conversations, yes, today is for you. And this episode is where it all lands. What's up, Judy Schneidman, Don Kirk Lewis, TL Speaks. So glad that you're here. So good to see y'all in the space, in the place. Mendos Nehemiah on Instagram. So glad you're here. Patsy Irish, so glad that you are here. Oh yeah, who else is in the space? C. Marie B, Lorenda Jones. How y'all doing? So glad that y'all are here. Listen, y'all, if you want to know when we're going live, text live to 240-557-8679. Text live to 240-557-8679. We'll send you a notification. Hang out with us after the show. We go to the MiNDSHiFT Monday after show. Go to MiNDSHiFTMonday.com/Zoom. And lastly, my friends, if you are not in the community yet, head on over to AmplifiedVoiceHQ.com so you can hang out with us in the MiNDSHiFT Monday, in the Amplified Voice community. And we'll talk about MiNDSHiFT Monday real quick. As I said, today is the season 2 finale. Season 3 kicks off August 31st. Mark it down. We're coming back with something different. Hey, it's time to jump in, y'all. It's time to jump in. Y'all ready? Let's do this thing. Let's head to the show. Oh yeah, let's jump on in. Before we jump in any further, I want you to drop something in the chat. One word, just one. When you think about the first half of 2026, oh yeah, January through right now. Wow, we are almost at July 1st. We're almost at the official halfway mark. What's one word that describes the first half of 2026 for you? What's the first half? Okay, somebody said no sound. Your sound is okay. Ooh. Yes. Thank you for that. Somebody to me. How about that? Here we go. We got no music. I'm playing. I'm jamming. You getting your office mic? Yes. There we go. Thank you, C. Marie. I appreciate you. Hey, Udine. So glad that y'all are here. I'm glad that I have community members that check me and keep me on point. I love it. Excellent. Good. So we got our music jamming. I'm jamming. And y'all are like, what's this dude doing? Do me a favor. Drop the word in the chat. Challenging, says Udine, the community mediator. Somebody else. What's your one word for 2026 or for January through June so far, your first half of the year? Better. Okay. I like it. We got challenging. We got better. Okay. Done. Somebody said, okay. All right. What's your one word? What describes your year? Not the sanitized Instagram version, the honest version. Drop it in the chat. I want to see it. All right. Good. Okay. Somebody says transformation. Somebody says we got another challenging. Okay. Yeah. I see it. Yeah. Guess what, y'all? That is your data. That's the report that the first half of the year handed you. All right. Here's what I mean when I say the first half was data. Data isn't good or bad.
Data is information, and information becomes useful when you actually read it, right? When you stop reacting to what happened and you start analyzing what it revealed. I see some words coming in still. I see quiet. I see resilient. I see interesting. Yeah. The first half of this year revealed something to you, and it revealed something about you, about how you handled pressure, about what maybe you're still avoiding, about where your voice got loud and where it went quiet. So the question isn't whether you hit your goals. I'm not asking you about your goals today. The question is, what did the first half of this year show you about how you actually operate? Not how you planned to operate, but how you actually operate when your plan meets reality. That's the data. And most people never look at it. We just keep going. We go back to the to-do list, right? We go back to the goal list. But what's the actual data? I want to tell you a conversation I had with somebody in this community. I'll keep the details general, but the moment was a real moment. I had a conversation maybe about 6 to 8 weeks in the year with someone. They'd set these ambitious goals in January, written them down, jumped into AI, and had an entire strategic approach draft. You could push buttons on it. It was colored. It was pretty. It looked great. It was all about how they could grow their life and their business utilizing AI agents and different resources, what they needed. It was phenomenal. They told people about the plan. They had the whole plan. And then by late February, they were already feeling a little bit behind. And when we talked, they kept using the word fail. I failed at this. I failed at that. I missed this. I missed that. So I asked the question, what if you didn't fail? What if you just got information that you didn't have in January? Because here's what actually happened. They discovered that they couldn't sustain the pace that they'd planned out. They found out that one of their revenue streams wasn't as stable as they thought, right? You've got these different plans. You plan to do this, and you've got different avenues or different vehicles, revenue vehicles, and one of them is not working like you thought it would. So they realized that one of their revenue streams wasn't as stable. They realized that they hadn't planned on the amount of time it would take for family graduations, for family travel, right? They hadn't taken into account what recovery would look like after travel. And so despite the best laid plans, they didn't have the energy or the resources to do what they initially planned. And so here's what the data said. Here's what the data said to them. You can do better if you have more resources. So how do you get those? That's what the data said. The data said, listen, you are by yourself or you have a small team, but in order to do what you said you wanted to do, you need more resources. How do you get those? That's what the data said. The data said you can do better if you have more information about the full scope of family events. This person made plans before getting a full scope of all of the family events. So how do you get that information? How do you get that data before you fully finalize your plan? Or how do you make your plan flexible enough to incorporate family adjustments, right? This is what the data said. You can do better if you have more information about this full scope. The data also said for them, you can do better if you bake in recovery time after business travel. How much time do you need and how does your business function during that time? Because as business owners, when we are out of the business, as smaller business owners, when we are out of the business, it can feel like the business is stalled because we're not there. It's not always a great thing, right? But here's the thing. Based on this information, right? This person got some information that the data said to them. It said, you can do better if you've got more resources. You can do better if you've got more information about the full scope of your family events. You can do better if you bake in recovery time, right? That's not failure. That's a full-on diagnostic report. That's the kind of information that some people, it takes them years to get. And for this person, this information landed in 2 months, 6 to 8 weeks. And the problem wasn't the data. The problem was internally. They were calling it, oh, failure. Oh, I'm off track. Oh, so they were calling it failure instead of reading the data. What are you calling failure that's actually feedback? Come on, talk to me this morning. What are you calling failure that's actually feedback? Okay, let me be real with you for a moment. The person that I talked to wasn't somebody else. It was me. I was talking to the version of myself that started out the year. The version of myself that started out the year with ambitious goals and plans. The version of myself that started out the year with these high expectations that this year was going to be the year. It's going to be different than every other year. And when you don't get to a certain place by a certain time, when you don't get to, you've got a revenue number and you are a quarter of the way through the year and you are not even close to hitting a quarter of that revenue number, it can feel like failure. And you can start to message yourself with that. You can start to tell yourself that you're failing and you're not doing well. But here's the deal. In having that conversation with myself and really looking at the data, looking at what it was saying, looking at what was happening, you're able to separate the personality from the data. All right, when you're able to separate the personality or the emotion from the data, you can see it differently. Right? What if, let me ask you a question. What if you were to write your story like it was somebody else? What if, you know how it happens when you meet with your CPA or your accountant and they show you the numbers, right? When you see the numbers, it looks a little bit different than when you're in the middle of it. Have you ever been in a situation where you've seen data, you've seen information blind, and you don't know who it belongs to, but you are seeing information and you can make some assessments about the actions that this person needs to take because of the data that's right in front of you? What if you were to write your story like somebody else? When you see data without a name, you are able to remove some emotional responses or excuses from that. So here's what I first action that I want you to take. What if you were to just to take the information that you received from the first half of this year and create an action plan based on that data instead of attaching reasons why? Right? Because the first half of this year doesn't grade you. It reveals you. I don't know about you. You do certain things and some habits come into play. Some baseline behaviors come into play. It reveals you. You make plans, but then your default comes into play. Here's what some people do. They treat January 1st as the only real starting line. And so when June rolls around and they're not where they thought they'd be, they either try to push harder doing the same thing, or they quietly give up on the goal and just wait for January to try again. Somebody says they can only write their story. Yes, Lorinda, I'm asking you to write your story, but write it like it's somebody else's. Just write the data. Don't write the emotion in it. Don't write why in it. Just write the data, the raw data, what happened. And I'm gonna dig into this a little bit more in just a second. Right? Some of us, when we're not where we need to be, we either push harder doing the same thing, or we wait for January to try again. I've done it. I'm not pointing at anybody else. I've set goals at the beginning of the year, and then halfway through the year, I wasn't halfway on the goal. So I said, okay, let me pack this in, coast through the rest of the year, and then try again in January. Yeah, I might not have said it in those exact words. I tried to motivate myself or say, yeah, but if I was being real, and when I look back at the data and the efforts and what I did, I geared it down. I put it in coast mode. I did. Right? So it's halfway through the year. What are you going to do with the rest of your year? What are you going to do with the rest of the year? Hey, Kendra. Pastor Hans, what's going on, brother? Good to see you. Elomar Manalizzi, good to see you. Right? Both of those responses, coasting through the year or trying harder, ignore the data. Pushing harder, doing the same thing when the first half showed you that the approach isn't working, that's not discipline, that's stubbornness. And waiting for January when you just shift down and you coast, that's treating 6 months of your life like a waiting room. So the trap is that the second half is a continuation of the first half. It's not. It can't be, because you're not the same person who started in January. Earlier, we talked about expansion. Earlier this season, we talked about expansion, and that showed you where your identity was too small for what you were asking for, right? And then we talked about resilience, and that showed you what you're actually made of when things don't go the way that you planned. And then we talked about voice. That showed where you've been holding back and what becomes possible when you stop. You've got a full report. You got a full-on report. The question is, are you willing to read that report and adjust, or are you going to keep running the same play? Coach George Rice says, we sign and honor contracts with everyone and everything else except the ones we need to sign and honor with ourselves. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Right? There's a concept in professional sports, and you knew the sports example was going to come. I'm in it right now. Right? There's a concept in professional sports called the halftime adjustment. And the coaches that win championships, they're not the ones who give the rah-rah emotional halftime speech. Win one for the Gipper. Yeah, right. Oh my gosh, that is such an old reference. Yeah, it was before I was born, right? They're not the ones who give the emotional halftime speech. They're the ones who read the first half most accurately. And not just the first half of the game, but maybe the first half of the series or the first half of a process. Mike Brown, New York Knicks, you know I was going to say it. Mike Brown displayed this with the Knicks expertly. The Knicks were down in their first round series in the playoffs 2-1 to Atlanta. Atlanta was halfway to a series win. You got to win 4 out of 7. They'd won 2. They only needed to win 4. They were halfway to a series win. Here's what happened. Mike Brown and his coaching team ran the data, and they recognized that the play that they were running their offense through their star point guard, was causing the other team to load up on him and ignore the other players. Did Mike Brown tell him, hey, run faster? Hey, shoot more? Hey, do this with more energy? No, they looked at the data and then they made some adjustments. They started running the offense through their center, Karl Anthony Towns, right? The Knicks, after this adjustment, then won the next 13 games in a row. They won the next 13 games in a row after not trying harder, not playing better. They made an adjustment. They made a logistical shift They changed the paradigm. They changed how they operated. Their modus operandi shifted. Their MO shifted because of the data. You see, most of us, a lot of us, we run the wrong play, and then we run the wrong play and we continue to do the wrong play, and more energy running the wrong play is just faster failure. But what Mike Brown understood and what most of us miss in our lives is that the halftime or the halfway through the series isn't a reset, it's a read. It's not time to say, okay, let's stop and start over. It's, okay, what did this say to me? And what do I need to build with it? You take what the first half showed you and you build the second half strategy from that specific information, not from the plan that you made in January, but the reality that the first half handed you. And that's the difference between adjustment and acceleration. You can't accelerate in the right direction until you know what was revealed in the first half of the journey. More energy running the wrong play, faster failure. Read the first half before you run the second. So as we close this first part of the show here, right? The second half of the year, I want you to make this mind shift. The second half of the year, the old way that people thought about this, the second half of the year is a fresh start. Yep. July 1st, fresh start. Some of us operate like we need to start over in July or run the same play with more energy. No, that's not what we're doing. Our new belief is that the second half of the year is an informed response. This second of the half of the year is an informed response. A fresh start ignores the data. An informed response uses the data. A fresh start says, let me forget what happened and try harder. An informed response says, let me look at what happened, extract what it taught me, and move differently because of it. Right? The season that you just sat through, your expansion season, your resilience season, your voice season, we just walked through this. That wasn't motivational content. We were holding up a mirror. Every episode was asking you the same question underneath the topic. Who are you becoming? And are you willing to let the evidence of that first half shape how you move in the second half? We're not starting over. We're starting informed. So let's jump on in to our actions. We've got our actions for the second half of the year. 3 things before you step into the second half, and they spell something on purpose. I went old school acronym today because the second half only moves if you're willing to act. Watch it on what the first half revealed. So step 1 for you is this: audit the first half without judgment. Audit the first half without judgment. Sit down with your actual results this week. Not the plan, but the reality. What happened? What didn't? What happened? What didn't happen? What showed up that you didn't see coming? Right? Ask yourself real questions and write the answers down. What was your revenue? Okay. How much time did you spend with your spouse or your family? Okay. How many days per week did you exercise on average? Okay. How much money did you add to your savings account? Okay. How many events did you attend? Yeah. How many articles did you publish? Right? That's data. That's information. Write it down like a report, not a confession. Write it down like a report. We're not doing any self-criticism here. No excuses. This is just data. What did January through June actually look like? Honestly. Step number 2, confront the pattern. There's a pattern that kept showing up for you. There's usually one thing, one recurring friction point, one place that you kept stalling at the same spot, and you already know what it is. You've known what it is for a while. I kept avoiding the conversation. I kept underpricing myself. I kept waiting to feel ready. I kept waiting until I had enough money. I kept waiting until they asked me. Emergencies kept popping up. Right? This recurs in our lives. When we don't get to a space that we've planned, if you really look at the data, It's the same through line that keeps popping up. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to confront that pattern. There's a reason why that pattern keeps magnetizing itself to you. There's a reason why certain things keep happening in your space over and over and over again. You asking yourself the question, why does this keep happening to me? Because you keep doing the same behavior. Because you keep operating the same way. Because I keep operating the same way. So the same thing is going to keep happening. Why do I keep dropping in this pothole? Because you keep driving in the same lane. Name it out loud. Write down the pattern. The pattern you refuse to confront in the second half is the exact thing that will make it look like the first. We're getting close to time. Last thing, I want you to target one shift, not 10 new goals. Don't write a new list. Don't write a new list. Make one adjustment based on what the audit and the confrontation showed you. One gear shift. One thing that you're doing differently because the data told you to do that thing differently. One move. That's it. Just one. Because one informed move beats 10 motivated guesses every single time. Use the data. Act. Audit the first half, confront the pattern, and then target one shift. That's your homework going into the second half. Not a new vision board, not a new goal list. An audit, a confrontation. One targeted shift. Built from everything that the first half already handed you. Listen, y'all, we're about to jump in just a few moments here. If this hit you today, the after show is where we do the audit together. Let's walk through what the first half revealed and what one strategic shift looks like for your specific situation. This is what's happening right now on Zoom. MiNDSHiFTMonday.com/Zoom. If you want to stay in this conversation, let's go. Come on. Remember, this is the end of season 2. Season 3 kicks off August 31st, and we'll be in the Amplified Voice community. That's your home base for the summer. So come hang out with us. Go to amplifiedvoicehq.com and hit that community button. Listen, y'all, we started this season talking about identity, and we spent a month on resilience, and then we talked about voice and we talked about expansion. And here's what I want you to leave with as you walk into the second half. Your voice got louder, not because you found it, but because you started to trust what it was saying. The second half of the year doesn't need a new you. It needs the you that's running on what this first season revealed. The you that now has clarity, the you that now has intention, the you that is willing to move differently because of what you now know. The first half was data, the second half is decision. So let's do this thing. Come on. Let's start the second half of the year rocking and rolling. This, y'all, season 3 kicks off August 31st. Be sure to join the Amplified Voice community. Head on over to Amplified Voice, boom, HQ.com, AmplifiedVoiceHQ.com, and we'll have some MiNDSHiFT conversation there. All right, y'all, go to Story Vault Remix. Also, we've got our next event of the year coming up soon. Go to StoryVaultRemix.com to sign up for our next event, and I will see you there. Learn more about it by going to StoryVaultRemix.com. Until next time, everybody, stay curious, stay grounded, keep shifting your mindset so that you can shift your life. Come on, peace.